So I'm just gonna start and go through the special techniques for the joints as we go up the body. Okay, so we're gonna start with just simple toe pulling. I'm not sure if everybody's got the grasp of this, but I'll just show you how to do it. Okay, so with these ones, with the smaller toes, we're going to hold with one finger below the pad of the toe, okay? And then we're gonna hold here and we can get these top two joints like that.
So
okay?
do you kind of like, or do you pull it straight, or do you kind of click it backwards?
No, pull it straight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we hold here, and we just pull it. We got a little one that time, okay? Yeah. We're not attached to the result. This one.
Can I look at the other side while you do it, so just from this angle? So.
Yeah, sure. So we're holding like this underneath the pad of the toe, and then pulling like that.
Yeah.
And then like this, okay? Now, to get this top joint, we actually have to hold in an awkward, for me it's a bit awkward because my fingers are big, and we're just pulling the very end so that we actually get some, and I usually hold here, so that we're not pulling the whole foot, okay?
And then what about kind of cracking like them ones down there?
That's
Because I've seen videos where, you know, people kind of crack them like, you know, like that, and do you do that as well? Like,
That's the next one.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. I'll let you. I won't.
Yeah. Try to rush me. Okay. So
what if it doesn't crack?
Then it's either nice and loose, which it'll feel like it just gives, or it's too tight.
So it's an indication.
It's an indication that is too tight. Yeah. With the big toe, and I'm not expecting his big toe to go because it's too tight, but we hold like this, and then we get a grip like that, and then pull, and that thing's not moving. You know?
You might
So
switch
how-
that camera around so it's facing straight down. So that
Oh yeah. Next move we're going to do is done like this, where we're actually clicking into this joint, and we support below this joint like this, and then we support at the very bottom of the toe here. Okay, so we're not pushing like that, we're actually coming from here and then pushing down. And that one went? That one went. And that one's too tight to go. And the way to do all of them is or the four little ones, is we just put our fingers like this, and we get, again, this area here, not pushing like this. That would hurt. Yeah. We're doing it like this.
So more the top of the
Yeah. So, and then the big toe is difficult to get. I probably only get the big toe in this manner 1 out of every 10 or 20 times. But it's basically done in the same way. We're supporting here and there, and his is way too tight to do.
And so if you were to then continue, you know, doing work along the big toe valley band and the outer big toe band and whatnot, like then would you be able to go back and then get the crack?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've noticed sometimes, you know, like if it won't crack, but then once you work through the fingers and that, and then you go again and then it cracks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why you've got to figure out when you're going to use these techniques. I might come in as a diagnosis and pull everything to just get everything that's going to go nice and easy to go. And then I go, oh, that little toe doesn't want to move. Then I might spend half an hour working with the chopstick on that little toe and all around it. And then I pull it and it'll go.
Yeah.
So it's that combination of looking at the joints plus the muscles and how they work together.
Yeah.
And the detail with and not just the muscles, but the energetic tension that's created there from imbalance. And how it all works together. So yeah, as a diagnosis, then I'd know that this little toe is really messed up. Okay? And of course, this big toe, we already, we got to, we can do some little movements like that as well. All right? So, the next move I'm going to show you is done like this. There's two moves within one. We warm them up by doing this. We have the ball of our hand, or whatever you want to call this, on this joint here, and the ball of this hand on this joint here, okay? And then we're going to just work it like this. And a similar move, but far more. What's that?
They call them fluffy hands.
Fluffy hands, yeah. I've heard this called a sandwich, but they do it all gently, but I do it a lot stronger. The next move is a much, much more powerful move, and I'm not thinking he's gonna go, but it gets deep into these bones here. And how it's done is it's always done towards the inner part of the leg, because if you go out, there's no resistance, okay? When you go in, there's a resistance there. So we get him to breathe in and into the exhale. I often let people breathe a couple of times before I do any strong joint adjustments. And I take it to a full stretch. And I let him breathe. I never let a person know exactly when I'm going to do a joint adjustment because they might tighten up against me. And this is the one I did on you and it made a big click, but I haven't worked him, so I'm not going to do this very strong. If it's going to go easy, well, I give it less than 10% chance that this is going to work on him right now.
So where do you have your hands planted on that same point?
Same point, but all I've done is I've taken him to his full stretch this way. And then I'm going to wait for the end of an out breath. Oh, we did get a little click there. Deep in here.
So that's more of a pop kind of move than a gradual twist.
And any of these kind of popping moves, like when we crack the back, when we do certain things, we're always taking it to a full stretch before the out breath. And then at the end of the out breath, we just do a movement there. We're not going all the way from here in one breath.
Yeah.
So we take it to the end of the out breath and then a movement like that. And we probably get some deeper ones once we've worked this little toe. Okay? So next move we're going to do is supporting the foot like this and holding the heel. And we're actually having the foot up like this, okay? Not down like this, okay? And then we get him to breathe in, but we don't want him tightening, okay? This is a special technique called the Wendy technique. A lady in our Sydney class from China showed it to us. Relax. She just slaps the people.
Yeah, I do that as well.
We named the technique after her. Wendy wasn't her real name, but you know. I was like, that's so effective, you know. You just slap them and tell them to relax. And everybody goes, oh, okay, yeah. So whenever somebody's tightening up against you, you just slap them and tell them to. I was like, that is so simple, but so effective. Yeah. So again, we let him breathe. We get our position. We make sure that he's not tightening up against us. And we wait until we find the right one. Don't rush these things. Remember, breathe yourself as well. And sometimes you'll click the ankle, sometimes you'll click the knee, and sometimes you'll click the hip. The knee and hip are harder to hear.
So for someone like Steve who has a knee replacement, is the extra core?
I wouldn't be doing, if it was a treatment, I'd be just spending hours on his little toe and big toe until I got those things looser. I mean, we worked them a bit last week, which is, look, it's a lot better than it was on Monday of last week for you guys that remember. I mean, that thing's starting to get some movement. The thing was just like so stiff.
Yeah.
So like I say, if it was me doing treatment on him, I'd just spend a lot of time. His middle toes aren't too bad, but they're still tight. If you feel them, they're tight. But this little toe is really bad, you know?
Yeah.
Be more straight like that, and then this toe wouldn't be curling under and facing. This is almost facing at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so this toe should actually be more like that. And this toe shouldn't be going that way. It should be, you know, so his feet are a mess, you know? And feel this joint right here, it's so stiff.
Yeah.
So that's where I'd invest my time. Okay, so we'll just have a feel on this side. We'll do it. See, that one doesn't want to click. You don't force them, okay? If they don't go, 2 went easy, 2 didn't go. That shows me that, and this one, when you look at how his foot goes, look at how this one goes right under this one.
Yeah. Mine are a bit like that.
Yeah.
My little toe kind of curls underneath.
Which is going to show tension in here, and these whole joints are messed up. So, like I say, there's a lot, and then like I said, this joint. Did somebody like loosen this joint a bit more?
I did the points to the tarsal spring on Friday.
On that foot or both?
Both.
Okay.
A bit looser.
Yeah.
And I rocked a bit out of the the ankle. I was telling you about the slap in his knee.
Yeah. Have you had an operation on this knee or just that one?
Just this one.
Yeah.
Through the scar.
Yeah.
Yeah, got a 6-point titanium.
Right. See, I can hardly even do this move without him tightening up against me. That's how tight he is in this foot, you know. But normally, again, this move would be done after you've done the toes. So you do you might do 5 hours on his toes, and then you start to come into loosening up this part of his foot. And then you would do this move, and then do also get him to breathe. And it's not going. You can just see how much tightness there is resisting that move. So you don't force moves. When you force a joint adjustment against muscle tightness, that's when you cause injury. Okay? So you just got to sense it. You go, that's just not right for him right now. Okay? And most joint adjustments should be done after you've done that detail of those toes or the detail of the fingers, you know?
Because you've got to remember it's the muscles that hold the joints and the bones in place. It's not the bones that hold the muscles and joints in place.
That's right.
And so when you say detail, do you mean more specifically with getting in there deep with the tool, or
Yep.
kind of more just at least just warming it? Like,
No, I mean getting in there,
Yeah.
spending hours on
Yeah.
these toes.
Yeah,
You know, before I progress up and start to worry about his knees or lower back or anything. Like, this is going to be holding so much.
yeah.
And this isn't going to come away in a 20-minute session.
Yeah.
This is, I see like 6 or 7 hours work
Yeah.
on each of his feet
Yeah.
to really get some looseness starting to come in there, you know?
Yeah.
And that's me working him
Yeah.
up at his maximum capacity.
Yeah.
So you guys might go, you know, less and take longer.
Yeah.
Well, that's what. But when you think about it, his body's like 55 or 55 for 54, right? You're 54.
54 years.
50. That's 54 years worth of tension. Okay. So again, you know, like, you know, you think your life is 32 years. You add another 22 years.
Yeah.
And he's a heavier constitution than you. So
Yeah.
so there's all that extra weight on his feet.
Yeah.
You know, there's all sorts of emotional shit. You know. From,
Yeah.
you know, coming down even from his grandma being slapped for speaking Maori in schools. You know what I mean? There's a lot of identity shit. There's all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff going
Yeah.
on here. So anyway, we'll try this joint one. Again, we actually hold the foot up. You relax. And I hold the foot up here. Okay? And I hold the foot from here. And the pulling is going to be this. It's not going to be much here at all. In fact, this is actually just going to be keeping this foot in position so that it's not coming like this.
Yeah.
If you pull here, you'll be pulling it this way. You're actually pushing very mildly and keeping it straight.
Yeah.
And then pulling here.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I usually get a good grip. If I'm standing, I'll get a good grip like this so that I can bring my whole body weight back.
Yeah.
Not just pulling with my arms and shoulders. There's a big difference, okay?
Yeah.
Big, but I'm not going to go full strength on him. I just want to go about 50% because he's not warmed up much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big breath. And I shake it to make sure I'm feeling whether he's giving me that joint. If he's tightening up against me, I don't do it.
Yeah.
On any joint move, you don't want the person tightening up
Yeah.
against you.
I actually always wondered when they did the chiropractic adjustments, where
Uh-huh.
they always move the head a few times and then they pop it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
to make sure that they're not
Yeah,
tense.
that's when the dangers occur, especially with neck cracking. It's to do with the person. Most of the dangers associated with neck cracking are soft tissue dangers,
Yeah.
severing the arteries or affecting the nerves or the muscle spasms. And it's almost always done when the person's neck is too tight.
Yeah.
That's why it makes far more sense to massage
Yeah.
with a neck crack,
Yeah.
especially before, than it does like doing all these people without.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's kind of crazy.
Is
Like,
it normalised
yeah.
to just
No, you're
crack?
right. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't make any. Although I'm not saying chiropractors are bad because I go to some and sometimes they get some great adjustments and things,
Yeah.
but they can't do you very much if you're tight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they do, then they're dangerously doing it.
Yeah.
I think it's all so stupid how they don't have a recognition of the integration of how muscles, energy, and joints work.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah. Keep people sick and charge a lot of money. I think it's because also there's a lot more money. If you could crack somebody's neck in 5 or 10 minutes and then get them out. Some chiropractors and physiotherapists are doing like 20 in an hour.
Yeah, literally.
That's a lot of money, you know?
But also, if the person keeps coming back, that's also more money.
That's right.
So if you're just doing one crack and then in 2 weeks he's going to go back and then you
That's
can crack
right.
him again and let's go.
Yeah, that's it. It's a big money making thing.
Yeah, they just keep coming back, but it's like,
Yeah, no, it's absolutely correct. Big breath. So I get my position, and I'm using my leg strength. I'm going to be using my leg strength when I do, if I need to do a strong move on somebody. But I wait. And then I kind of use, you know, and I didn't want to go too strong anyway, so.
You get it?
Yeah.
I felt something. But I'd get more after a joint. Every joint's very different. So you've got to feel, like with this one, you're feeling the resistance. Like I'm feeling like on this one, there's just too much resistance to push it because it's so tight in here. With this one, I'm feeling like incredible resistance where there's no way I would do a joint adjustment against this level of resistance. It's just so tight in here. I need, like I said, you know, an hour or two just on that big toe. Easy. That big toe is a disaster. I mean, that's just like a big red flag just flying out here, you know what I mean? Has anybody not felt this big toe, just so that you know what a bad big toe feels like? Okay.
There's a lot of the diaphragm area.
Yeah, even that, it's big.
oh really?
Yeah, it's
Like you can
big,
big, a lot of calcium.
Yeah,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
So like, also,
Joint here can do it's not great, but it can do this joint that has almost no movement. Like the whole thing, just like that's its range of motion.
You can see the size of it.
Yeah,
Like, and there's not even bunions to make it look big. It's
Yeah.
actually just
it's all solid.
solid. Better body waste and calcification.
Yeah, it's a disaster. Absolutely disaster. Well, it is. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, and then this joint, this one's really tight in here too. At the back here. Well, even in here. Feel
Are you
right in
okay?
here. That's why I'm saying, with him, it's like, it's just long. And if he doesn't,
And that's me doing that.
so if he was what we call an idiot, right,
That's how I'm pressing.
and didn't want his big toe done because what he thinks, he either thinks he knows better than us,
Yeah, that's me doing
or
it.
he's maybe too scared of the pain or something. But really, should he be scared of the pain if we're working on him within his threshold? No. Unless if you're overworking him, then you've destroyed the bridge of trust. But really, even with a chopstick, you should still work within his. It should never be overwhelming painful. So that shouldn't be a good excuse. That would mean that you're just somebody jabbing people, right? Like I don't like to teach chopstick work to people with no empathy, because they're likely to just destroy the bridge of trust and overwork somebody. Okay, empathy must proceed, because chopstick work, or not just chopstick, but our acupressure pens, are very, very powerful, as most of you guys have experienced. Okay, and you need to have your empathy and and patience and perseverance, because this isn't going to correct itself in 20 minutes. This is going to take hours. Okay. And maybe over multiple treatments. This has been messed up. I don't know how he did this or whatever, and in the sense I don't really care, because my job is not to analyze how he got messed up, it's to help him fix, right? It's kind of irrelevant. It's like, it might be mildly relevant. Oh, good, we got that joint
Maybe
together.
could wear rugby boots. Stick a game of rugby and rugby league.
Probably, could easily be.
yeah.
Boots and shoes. So when it comes to special moves, in here, there's not as many, okay? But what we can do is, of course, have the ankle up in this position here. Is that in? Perfect. We can definitely get into all of these kinds of, you know, working of the bands coming up into here. And of course, he's going to be tight. But it's nothing, the calves are actually relatively simple, okay? It's more just holding points whether it be on the Achilles band, whether it be on the big toe belly band, the big toe sacrum band. You know, it's, and again, don't overwork. Oftentimes people are very tight in here, and he is. This is a spot you can overwork, because guess where this is anchored? His big toe. And his big toe is a disaster. So if you start just digging in here, and you can see I'm not even going that hard, right? And it's, I could, but if I started to go, wow, you're really tight in here, mate, let me just work it out, I would cause bad pain and bruising, okay? So don't do that. That's what a lot of deep tissue massage therapists make that mistake. Again, bruising often common here. Somebody could feel this band here and go, let me just work into that. Come on, mate. No pain, no gain, you know?
That's what my chiropractor did through the Dr. Magnus, and it's still, or you can still.
Butter can be hard, but if you rub it with some heat, it melts. Right? Because, but with it having anchor points through here, this will not let go very easily at all. It won't let go. Actually, you'll just bruise it and hurt it. It won't actually, it might temporarily feel a little bit better, or it might feel worse because it feels bruised, you know? But it might feel slightly looser. I mean, we can work it like about that pressure and just see if anything comes away nice and easy. But any harder, and it wouldn't be very good. Okay, so there's no major special techniques that we're doing through here. It's just about positioning. We can have the leg out like this. We can get to all the bands from here. But again, if you have them loosened here, then you don't really want to be doing too much. There is things like special techniques where we can, it's not so much a special technique, it's just about positioning. We can work on, when we're working on this band can be very tight in a lot of people. And if we need to get in deep in here, again, after we've released this tension and this toe in particular with him, you can see how, and we felt that, and that's super tight. That's going to add to a lot of tension through here. So in a treatment, after we've spent a long time on this toe, at least an hour, I would estimate, and this toe is loose, and then this toe is loose, because this toe is also tight, then we can start to come up this delta band, and then we can work like this. We can turn the foot like this. We could either work up here or we could work with our fingers, but that's often quite difficult. So easier is to lean in like this. And we get the bone. Why I'm turning the foot like this is to keep the bone away from me. Otherwise I'd hit the bone, and that feels bad. Then we can just lean in with our body weight, and I'm only going to do this quite gently.
And you don't want to poke it with the tip of your elbow. You want more like a flat section of your.
With him, you could, if you're using the tip of your elbow, and you can, you would then create a holding with this hand, and so that you're not, because with the tip of your elbow, you're very easy to slip. Whereas here, you've got more stability. Okay. If you're going to use the tip of your elbow because you need to get in really deep, then you would do something like this, where your finger is lined with the bone. So that you're creating a padding that your elbow is not going to push over onto that bone. Then you would again keep that foot turned inward so that you're bringing this tension to the top and not having this bone too high out. Then you could go in like this. And I'm not going on hard on him because he doesn't need it.
And so, like, because you know how there's other massage therapists that talk about knots and fascia and all that stuff, and I'll sit there and I'll just work over one knot, trying to, eliminate a knot. Like,
My opinion on that is that it's bullshit. Because I don't think of knots, because even if you look at a knot is on a string. It's not technically going to be knotted, okay? It's an energy blockage, and that energy blockage exists on a band. So we have to work that as a band, and there's what I call anchor points on that band. And it's understanding the anchor points of what's going to release, because otherwise you overwork a spot. So I don't really use the term knots, unless it's very loosely, but I think it's actually misleading to people to use that word. So I don't recommend you guys use the word knot, because it's not a knot. You could say, I guess, like there's a knot in a tree. You know how they use the word knot for like an imbalance? So I'm not totally opposed to it, but you need to understand, I think understanding bands is far more important, because then you see how it exists, like how this tightness here, like say for example this, you can see how tight that is, okay? Like you can just feel that. Right? If you just go, you're tight here, mate, let me work it,
Yeah.
Again, you could call that a knot if you wanted.
Yeah.
I would call it a tight band.
Yeah.
But you could call this a knot, getting right into here,
Yeah. Because you know how you
right there, right? Like a lot of people go, oh, you got a big knot there, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
That hard spot. It's along the whole
Right.
band, and then
Yeah.
there'll just be a lump.
Right.
there, like- So you don't really acknowledge that particular lump and try and work that lump out. It's still just the whole band system.
Well, I acknowledge it and try and work it out, but I
Yeah.
understand that it's held from here.
Yeah. Cool.
So I would work here first, then I would come up there and it should just let go easy.
Yeah. Cool.
Not go into here while this is anchored, because that's far more likely to cause bad pain and bruising and soreness,
Yeah.
and just damage the person,
Yeah.
because it's still held here,
Yeah.
and it's not going to let go. You're just going to butt up against it,
Yeah.
and you're going to make it sore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a process to untangle that knot,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that. Although
Yeah.
you're not untangling, like when I look at a knot, I think of a rope and it's all tangled. That's not,
Yeah.
it's not really that great a, you know what I mean? Like an
Yeah.
analogy or whatever we want to use.
Yeah.
I call it a blockage
Yeah.
on a channel or a band,
Yeah.
because then we're like looking at more like a hose having a kink in it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's.
Okay, it's probably a better analogy, and then you got all these kinks here, so that you got to get that energy to start flowing. You got to it's not you're untangling it like that. You got to kind of move it to allow this life force energy,
Yeah.
chi, ki, prana, sin, whatever you want to call it, right, to be able to move through that channel. And along with that will come blood supply,
Yeah.
because the blood and the chi work together, and they'll often, you've got your veins and arteries and circulatory system working along these energetic channels, and they get compressed when there's a chi blockage or whatever we want to call it. So yeah, much better to think like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's just misleading, and like you get caught up in an individual knot, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm gonna bash that knot out,
Yeah. Because I'm always watching videos, like just constantly, as you've travelled around and learned every different technique kind of thing and formulated Raynor. I'm just always watching videos, and lately I've been seeing heaps of videos of people just viciously hitting these adhesions or kinks, as you would say, and then they get the glass stone and they just smash them one spot. And I'm like, I don't know if that's.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
I think you could hurt a person and
Yeah.
damage them.
Yeah.
I think it's the difference between good and bad pain. Good pain is where we're finding a spot and we're opening it up and we're releasing that tension. Yes, it's painful when it's worked on if you're very tight. Okay, so it's not painful, but it releases.
Yeah.
Bad pain is this is probably one of the most common spots that people do bad pain, along with up here and the same in the arms. But I've had people work my calf muscles before, because I get tight. I have big calves and they get quite tight, and they just go, let's get into it. And I'm like, it hurts and it doesn't provide any benefit. So why would you want to be hurt without having benefit? And actually can be damaging.
Yeah.
You can damage a person's tissue. So highly don't recommend that at all. And especially not in my name. I don't want people doing the wrong shit with using my name for it. You know what I mean? Mine is about coming to the ends of bands and solidly releasing with patience and perseverance. And empathy, and also with awareness of this subtle area, especially between here and here, and the holding of that. And that to me is so important. And then once you actually can see that release along here, then you can start to go up.
Yeah.
Or if you get 20% of a release here, then you should be able to get 20% here. But you don't try and get 80% out of here if you've only got 20% out here. You'll feel it. It'll let go pretty easily, and then you'll be stuck again. It'll go, that's your next layer.
Yeah.
All right? So oftentimes you're not doing 100% release here, going all the way up, getting 100% release out of the band. You might be getting 20%, you might be getting 50%, you might be getting 5%.
Yeah.
You could get 1% on some elderly people, or or somebody who really doesn't want their toe work very hard. You got to be so sensitive, and you got to,
Yeah.
So it all depends. Oh, that was a good clip. On the person and your skill level.
Yeah.
But never go too hard up here if you haven't done it.
Yeah.
So the next move I'm going to show you is above the knee, and this is a powerful move, and it can be done either like this, or with the knee up. So there's several moves within one. We can hold points here, and the points are just bands.
Yeah. People hate this one.
And again, this one should only be done if we've loosened the foot
Yeah.
at a deep level, okay? And it's a pumping move, it's a chi pumping move that can get the energy moving. So we can hold here and then work like this,
Yeah.
or we can hold here and move the leg side to side. And with a big leg, we can use our knuckles like this
Yeah.
and get in and rock it.
Yeah.
Not like this,
Yeah.
and not like this. We're maintaining contact, and not even like this. We're holding and moving the leg.
Yeah.
And on a big person too, we can, as long as their feet don't smell too bad. We can actually go like this, and then. But again, this I'm not working him hard right now because
Yeah.
I'll be working against deep-seated tightness that's held in his feet.
Yeah.
This could be counterproductive.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's how it's done. And then I get him to do a bit of a Wendy technique up here, just get him to let go of that leg, and then,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the one, the outer little toe and the big toe as well.
Yeah, but you can actually change it slightly too and get different bands.
Yeah.
I
So
can come
that's
in.
moving chi through the body.
Yeah, but only if you've released here.
Okay.
It's a powerful one to get this deep-seated stuff that's held above the knee.
If you get someone that's sort of borderline, well, they're yellow, but sort of more leaning towards the red,
Yeah.